Hi students, I'm Una.
And I'm Scott.
I'm a PTE teacher from the UK.
I'm also a PTE teacher from the UK.
And we've been helping students pass their exams for years.
And now we're excited to help you pass your exam too.
Welcome to the Swoosh English PTE podcast.
Let's get started. Hi everyone, and welcome to Swoosh English, a series of podcasts on the various components of the PTE examination. My name is Scott.
And my name is Una.
And we're here to go through another lesson with you today in terms of our conversation about one component of the PTE examination. First of all, Una, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you, Scott?
I'm fine also. Ready to go ahead with this task today?
Yes, so let's get straight into it. What is the task today, Scott?
So today we are talking about the first of two writing components in the PTE examination. It is summarize written text.
Great. Summarize written text, that scary task where we look at that prompt, which can be 200 to 300 words, and we have to condense it into one sentence. How long is the sentence in terms of the word count, Scott?
Well, it's one sentence for one. The word count is between 5 and 75 words.
5 and 75 words, yes. So that is what we have to do in this task. We have 10 minutes in order to read a text, which, as I said, is 200 to 300 words. And then we have to summarize that text into one complete sentence of a maximum of 75 words.
Just keep in mind that you're going to be reading something that is akin to the length of write essay, 200, 300 word essay, and you're just essentially having to get all the main details, the topic sentence, the names, the dates, all the essential information, and formulate a single sentence of 5 to 75 words with that. So it's pretty intimidating.
Yeah, it is. But you really are going to think about, how do you convey the overall meaning of that text without any of the really small supporting details. And, if someone was reading your sentence, they would have a good gist of what that text was about.
Yes, a very good understanding of that.
Yeah.
So how many summarized written text prompts do you have to do in the day of the exam?
2 to 3.
2 to 3.
Yes, 2 to 3 for summarized written text. And yes, so this task is asking you to attempt to convey the gist with the main points in that overall text. So what are you scored on, Scott?
You're scored on 4 sections, which are content, form, vocabulary, and on your grammar as well.
Very good. Okay, so we're going to make sure that we work on our content. So how would you keep your content score up?
Well, it's a tricky thing to do because obviously, when you're looking at a essay of 200, 300 words and you think, how can I make one sentence out of that? You might think that, I need to get as many details as possible. But then again, if you get too many details, then unfortunately, you're not going to be able to write a single cohesive sentence.
Yes.
So there's a balancing act involved. And that balancing act, as we said, is just getting the topical idea and the main points, extracting that, ignoring the rest, and creating a sentence with as many of those details as possible to ensure that you have the content of the lecture summarized in a nice, efficient, and cohesive way.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, our grammar and our vocabulary, that's going to come down to, the level of our grammar and putting that sentence together and making sure that it's all correct. And we're going to talk today about the method and the timing management, but we're going to leave ourselves time to really read and review and make sure that our grammar is correct.
Highly important because, like anything, the review process is highly important in creating that example answer that you want in order to get the score that you need. So that's content, vocabulary, and grammar. Obviously, that's pretty self-explanatory.
Vocabulary, of course, as well, is making sure that you use synonyms and that you're not just copying exactly everything that was said in the text itself, but using synonyms in order to put it into your own words and really show off your range of vocabulary.
And also important to know that you actually understand the main content words that you find in the text, so you can use them in context when you reformulate your own sentence at the end. All right, what about the form in it?
And the form, of course, is just making sure that you stick within that word count and that you only write one sentence.
So why is it important that you only write one sentence?
Because that is this task. You're required to only write one sentence. It would be easy. It would be easy to write a couple of independent sentences and you think that, but if I just stick them together, then that would end up being one sentence. But no, you need to make sure that it actually is only one sentence you've written with one full stop.
What happens if you don't write one sentence?
Then you get 0.
Very good to know.
Yes.
You get 0 if you don't write one sentence. Therefore, you need to ensure that you do not use a full stop anywhere or anything else that suggests it's more than one sentence. Also, what happens if you write less than 5 words or more than 75 words?
You also get 0.
You also get 0. That's the main takeaway. One sentence only. I don't think anyone's going to have a problem writing less than 5 words. I also think it's more likely that you'll write more than 75 words. But then again, it's highly difficult to write one sentence of 75 words.
Yeah, so we're going to recommend as well that you don't even go up to that 75 word mark.
No, that's the upper limit.
That would be a really long sentence and just not practical, really. So I think 50 words, maybe 35 to 50 words is sort of like the buzz number there.
Yes.
To write a good sentence that doesn't contain too many clauses.
It's kind of like a magic area, right? Because any less than that, you're going to get less for content. Any more than that, it's incredibly difficult to write a nice cohesive sentence.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's what we talked about there, scoring. Let's now move on to the types of tasks. So you will be, when you do your summarized written text prompts, you will obviously read a passage, a chunk of text. That text is obviously going to be academic in its nature. It's going to be quite complicated. You're going to obviously come across a lot of new terms and new vocabulary because I don't want it to keep. It's not going to be something that you maybe read on website like a blog or an opinion piece, for example. You're going to read a variety of journals. These can be news journals. These can be research journals. These can be technical journals. You'll have lectures, and you'll also have essays of an academic nature. So everything's going to be quite complicated.
Lots of topics
in its form.
Yeah, like science, physics,
health,
education,
history, finance, space exploration, maybe even autobiographies as well. They can come up. So my main takeaway from that would be just to familiarize yourself with the variety of different texts you can so that you are able to understand, obviously, its flow and its structure. You know where the main details are, and also just being familiar with all these new lexis and terms and maybe writing styles you might come across as well.
Very good. Okay, so what about time management then? How are we going to break down the 10 minutes into the different sections that we have to do in the day?
Now, just be aware that this is obviously only our own interpretation of time management. Other people may think a bit is less and more, and obviously these are just approximate figures.
Yes.
So I recommend that you spend a considerable amount of time at the beginning, obviously reading through the text and making sure you understand the gist of the topic while extracting that key essential information. I think 2 to 3 minutes for that is a good time to do that.
Yes, that sounds good. Sounds good, Scott. Yes, so 2 to 3 minutes extracting those details and the key points of the reading. Okay, and then we have 4 to 5 minutes?
Yeah, but 4 to 5 minutes, we'll say that. 4 to 5 minutes doing what? Actually writing, first of all, formulating our sentence and then writing it. But I don't recommend that you go straight into, obviously, you've taken down your key details, you've got them in note form. Don't just start writing your sentence straight away. You need a bit more time for that in order to formulate your sentence using a variety of techniques that we might go through today in today's podcast. So
yes.
That's obviously the essential part, is creating your answer.
Yes, so formulating and writing that sentence. And then you're going to have 2 to 3 minutes to review. So read and review. Make sure that your grammar is correct, your spelling is correct, your vocabulary, your punctuation. Very important in this task because we don't want to use too many commas. And because we are usually connecting different clauses, there is a requirement for punctuation there. We want to make sure it's correct.
Yes.
And that you have, written all your sentences correctly. You're going to be using the likes of complex sentences, compound sentences, relative clauses. We will look at these in more detail today.
Just making sure that it flows well and it makes sense. And also it satisfies the scoring criteria of one sentence only and also between 5 and 75 words.
Exactly.
So just to recap there, 2 to 3 minutes of reading the text, extracting your information, 4 to 5 minutes of formulating and then writing your response. Then the remaining time, 2 to 3 minutes of reviewing it and making sure that it satisfies all of the appropriate scoring criteria.
Exactly. So get lots of practice in timing yourself, doing the task itself before you actually go into the exam, and then you will know yourself what section that you want to dedicate like 1 minute perhaps more to, or
sure,
whatever.
You might be very good at extracting information but take longer in your sentence structure. Obviously work on the things that you're slower at to get them up to speed, and obviously at first, if you can't do it all in 10 minutes, take your time and make sure you do it correctly rather than don't do it incorrectly, but aim at getting that efficiency done.
Yes.
All right, so let's look at a bit more detail about what we're going to do for the first step of summarized written text, and that is reading through the passage and extracting our key information. What are we looking for when we extract the information? Because the text is long, it's going to be quite complicated. 300 words maximum. How can we get 50 words out of that we're going to use in our response?
Well, the first thing we want to do is really analyze what is the gist of that text. So ask yourself, what is the gist? What keywords are jumping out at me in order to come to a conclusion what the actual topic is? And then you're going to look at those. So that's like really skimming, okay? We want to come up with the gist. And then we need to really highlight the keywords and the key points. Okay, and we want to take note of those key points, and these are what we're going to include in our sentence. So we want, in summarized written text, are you going to pay so much detail to examples and supporting details? Can you fit them in?
No, you're not, because after all, as I said, 300 words of material in 50 words of a response, around about 50 words, we'll say. You can't just include all the details.
You just can't.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
So you're going to even struggle getting most of the main details in one sentence, let alone the supporting details. And as we suggested, the ideas you want to take from the text are the ideas which can exist by themselves. The supporting details obviously rely on being an explanation of the main details.
Okay, yes.
So look out for language which suggests they are supporting detail. You might say, for instance, for example, as related to a main detail, then you'll know that it's supporting. Yeah. And obviously it's worthwhile maybe taking a note of those so you can assess at the very end whether this is something I should include or not.
Whether you can fit it in.
Whether you can fit it in, which is obviously a big ask and a big question for this task.
Yeah, and another way to note the difference between those main points or supporting details is that, of course, main points are usually more general, and your supporting details are obviously very specific. They're very specific because they are, giving examples of a certain main point, whatever it is. Yeah. Hi all. We're going to grab a quick cup of coffee. While we're gone, go to pte.swooshenglish.com and grab your free PTE starter course, a gift to get you started on your PTE preparation. That's pte.swooshenglish.com for your free PTE starter course.
So where can you find the information which summarizes the topic when you're reading a passage?
So, of course, you're going to be looking at the introduction.
Yes. Where in the introduction, no?
The first sentence.
Yes.
Okay, so your first sentence, and it depends if your paragraph or the reading text that you've been given is one paragraph or more than one paragraph. Because, of course, if you have more than one paragraph, there's going to be a topic sentence at the beginning of every paragraph. You can go straight to those in order to find your main points.
Yes. And then what about our main points? Well, they will be found throughout the text itself. Mm-hmm. Most notably, if your passage is split into numerous paragraphs, you will find the main points as your topic sentences at the beginning of paragraphs.
Like I just said.
And also what I want to point out as well is that often we can get some useful information about our main points or theme or topic in the conclusion as well.
Yeah.
That might be referenced by an opinion, or a summary of the main topic itself. So look for in the concluding sentence as well.
Of course, and with this task as well, you just use your own knowledge and the own technique that you use to actually write an essay, in order to find that information that you think are the main points, etc. So, we all have knowledge. We have to do the right essay task in the PTE exam. So we know the structure of an overall essay.
Yep, that's why these two tasks are actually, they relate to each other very well. You're just doing basically the reverse of right essay. You are taking that essay and getting the bare bones ideas from it.
Summarizing it into one statement.
And then putting it into one statement. Yeah. So if you know how to do both of them, then they should actually work pretty well in synchronicity with each other.
Very good.
Okay, so then we've obviously talked about our topic, our gist, our topical information, as well as our main points and ideas. What specific information in terms of word types should we be taking down and noting when doing our planning for summarized written text?
So we're going to be taking down those, important content words. Mm-hmm. So, your verbs or maybe nouns and places, events throughout that text.
And don't forget names are very important too.
Not specific names though, maybe, but just like the title of someone, what their job is, or what the organization involves, things like this. So what do you think?
Precisely what you said. You're looking down just for the main content words. So obviously, if we're talking about a certain organization, might be the focus, make sure you take down that organization and use it in your reformulation. You're obviously looking down for any events that are important in it. You're looking down to take down, as I say, organizations. Any dates are also going to be highly important if it's referring to some sort of study. Statistics are also incredibly important because it might be referenced that in a form of research, and as well as the words which denote the ideas and relationships between these ideas. But don't forget, you can still formulate your own phrases and words when writing your sentence to also talk about those.
Connect the relationships.
So the main ideas and words, specific information that relates to the main idea and the main points as well.
Okay. So then what are we looking at now? Are formulating the sentence. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we are going to have to put together a lot of information in one sentence. So this involves using our complex sentences, using compound sentences. So our best friend here is our conjunctive words. Mm-hmm. Fanboys is very useful here. fanboys.
That's
So
a nice acronym. But
yes,
you
this is
tell
an
me
acronym
exactly
that you
what a
can remember.
fanboy is.
oh,
And
I'll
it's
have
not
to recall it. I hope that I remember. But for and nor
but
but where are we now?
Oh. Or
We said or
and Y is yet.
yes.
So we said for and nor but or yet.
Yes.
Yeah,
You got it.
fanboys. Let's do one
And
for
S. There's a last S.
so as well.
Yes,
so
so.
fanboys, yeah.
Yeah.
We should do one for fangirls next, as well. That'd be kind of funny.
I don't think that exists.
I don't think it exists either,
So yes, we're going to use these conjunctive words in our compound sentences. And then we can also use our subordinate conjunctions for complex sentences. So for example, after, before, therefore, although. These kind of words are going to, or while, they're going to connect our complex
our
sentences.
ideas together within the sentence and allow us to create a complex sentence, as you say.
And we can also use relative clauses. Relative clauses are really useful.
Oh, really, really useful,
Yes.
actually. In fact, I think a lot of people, even when I'm writing complex sentences myself, like I'm definitely going to use a relative pronoun or two.
Yes.
What are relative pronouns?
Which, where, we can also use that.
And who as well.
When, yes. So these kind of words really useful in order to connect many different ideas within one sentence.
Because often what we're going to do when we start one of these summarized written text prompts is we're actually going to refer to an organization or a name or a date, and therefore we're going to add information which relates to that. So for example, I saw a prompt recently for summarized written text involving the IPCC, involving climate change. So the IPCC, which is the organization researching catastrophic climate effects, you can see how it's incredibly useful to use that relative pronoun when referring to the organization.
Definitely. So really study your grammar in relation to the structure of those sentences and where you use your punctuation in relation to those sentences as well. Because I know whenever I'm writing for students, there's a big... they always leave out the comma in the compound sentence.
Which is important.
So they forget the comma before the conjunction. And, they also forget the comma in the complex sentence in relation to whichever clause is first. I'm getting very technical here. But, really look into your practicing those sentences, your non-defining relative clauses, your defining relative clauses, and make sure that you're ready to use them and the relevant punctuation.
And also, just as Una says, make sure that you're using them effectively as well. If you're unable to use a certain grammatical device or cohesive device effectively, then try not and use it. See if a different way you can write it. But the best thing to do is just practice it. Practice these individual grammatical and cohesive devices in your own time so that you can use them effectively.
Yeah,
in the
but
day
I
of the
think
exam.
that's a really good point that you raised there, Scott. So if you are not comfortable with using this grammatical structure, then don't use it. Keep it simple. Use what you are comfortable with, what you know, and you're more likely to get it correct.
All right. Just what I want to say as well before we move on to the next part is that I think it's very important though that you don't just start writing immediately. What you should do is maybe take some of your key ideas, not them all, because there will be a lot, often too many for you to write effectively about, and place them in order in a way that you have derived meaning from the essay itself.
Perhaps use arrows, even like with your keywords to connect them.
You could do that if you have time, but write down the words in order and then just try and fill in your own ideas about how these words relate to each other with your own auxiliary language, denoting their relationships. Because obviously that's a good way for you to structure your response rather than get overwhelmed with, how do I start this? How do I start writing about this essay? Put your keywords in some sort of systematic order and then fill in the words around it, denoting the relationships and ideas.
Good tip. Okay, yes. So we've written our sentence.
We've written our sentence.
What are we going to do now?
Have we finished there?
Yeah.
Is it over?
Another point?
No.
So we're going to review.
Yes.
Let's just make sure that everyone then takes some time to read and review your sentence. So just checking all that fundamental stuff like your grammar, your spelling, and if the sentence is corrected well. Read it to yourself. Does it sound like it flows well? Trust your instinct.
Does it make sense to you? If it doesn't make sense to you, it's not going to make sense to anyone else.
Exactly. So trust your instinct. Read that sentence. Does it sound correct?
All right.
Does it flow well?
And also, you're just taking into account general review aspects such as, once again, as we said, I'll repeat this because I can't emphasize it enough, is it one sentence? If not, 0. Is it less than 5 words and more than 75 words? No. Or yes, then 0 once again.
Exactly.
Making sure you've spelt things correctly. Making sure you've used any grammatical devices in a nice way.
Yeah.
In a correct way. Make sure that you've used your punctuation as well effectively. And as we said, just making sure it all makes sense. Have you gotten those key ideas down to ensure that you've just made sure you've got those marks, which you could easily lose if you did not do the review?
And if someone else was reading that summary, would they be able to understand? Would they have a good idea of that overall text?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is that it for today, Scott?
That's pretty much it. Let's just wrap up for summarized written text. But we've gone through the structure, we've gone through the method, we've gone through obviously how you're scored. Just make sure that you put all of these into practice in your own time. Make sure you know how you're scored. Make sure you know exactly how much time you have for summarized written text, how many summaries you have to do, how you go about the three-step method that we went through today. Make sure you start by reading the text, extracting information, then formulating, writing your sentence, and then giving yourself time to review, and make sure you know what you are reviewing.
Yes.
We'll go into more tips in our top tip episode coming up very soon as well, right?
Yes, that's what we will. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you got some really good tips, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Bye.
Are you struggling with your PTE exam preparation? Are you unsure how to get that score of 65, 79, or even 90? Let us help you get there. Please go to pte.swooshenglish.com and enter discount code PTE10 in order to receive 10% discount on any course.